Chapter 34. The police cordon parted as the inspector's car tore through it at speed. As it slewed to a halt amidst the confusion of police cars, ambulances and fire engines, Horvis leapt from the cab and followed a wildly gesticulating constable towards the house of Professor Slocum. In the rear seats of the car, Paul leant over and whispered into his brother's ear,
"More big doo-doo going down here. Best we clear off pronto."
With all the tenacity of the four-toed civet, the two braves eased open the offside rear door and melted into the night.
"Stand aside, if you please."
Hovis elbowed his way through the crush before the professor's gateway and into the magical garden.
"Is he alive?"
the inspector demanded. The constable's head bobbed up and down.
"Only just, sir. Constable Meek was on beat duty here when the whole place went up. He pulled the old man out and gave him mouth-to-mouth. He was nearly gone. They're treating him in the ambulance, sir. Sir, he's frostbitten, in a terrible state." "Where is Meek?" "He's inside. But, sir, the old man, he's frostbitten. It's nearly midsummer." "Clear everyone out, and that means now." "Yes, sir."
Horvis thrust his way up the garden path and between the shattered French windows, which lay driven from their hinges.
"God, what is that terrible smell? Something dead in here, is there?" "Could be, sir. This place is in a terrible mess."
Within the study, flash bulbs popped, and the lads from forensics took readings and measurements, made educated guesses, and sipped coffee from thermos flasks. Several constables, whose sole function appeared to consist of getting in everybody's way, went about their duties with a will. The room was devastated, the precious tomes scattered, antique furniture upturned, priceless artefacts smashed beyond repair.
"Good God,"
said Horvis.
"He lived through this?"
"Just about, sir." Horvis turned upon the lookers and loafers.
"Out!" he ordered. "Clear the room. Where's Meek?"
The constable was stalking up the fire, beside which sat Jim Pooley, swathed in towels and blankets, blue of face and bitter of eye.
Sir," said Meek.
Horvis glared down at the kneeling constable.
"This is a disaster of the first magnitude, Meek," he growled. "What have you to say for yourself?"
"Sir?"
"Meek, I ordered a 24-hour watch put on this house. Where were you when this occurred?"
"Right here, sir.
What happened here? Who did this?"
"Well, sir," the constable hung his head.
"I can't rightly remember. There was this car." "Car, lad? A long black car. I've never seen one like it before."
A loud and plaintive groan issued from the fireside blanket man.
Said Horvis, raising a quizzical eyebrow. "And what do we have here?" "Chap was upstairs in the bath, sir, frozen into a block of ice. The firemen had to cut him out with their axes."
Meek stifled a titter.
"You should have heard him out, sir."
As Jim stared daggers at the young policeman, Inspector Horvis stared hard at Jim.
"Mr. Pooley, is it not?"
Jim cowered nearer to the fire and did drum rolls with his teeth.
"James Arbuthnot Pooley, born 27th July 1949, passed in Screen Maternity Hospital. No previous convictions." "No previous, eh?" said the inspector. "And what is your part in all of this?" "An innocent bystander, caught in the cosmic crossfire," Jim declared. "1 minute I'm having a bath, and the next thing, by jam, I am a ruddy fish finger. I think we'll get you down to the nice warm interview room before any more misfortune befalls you," said Horvis. "I'm fine here, thank you." "Meek, kindly escort Mr. Pooley to the station. Presently, I'll speak to you both."
"You can't do this to me," Jim complained. "I've done nothing. It's a frame-up, whatever it is. Is there no justice? Answer me, someone." Constable Meek took Jim firmly by the elbow.
"Police brutality," howled the innocent man. "I am not without influence. You see if I am not." "Take him out, constable."
Amid further protestations of innocence, cries of outrage, and pleas for mercy, Jim was led away. By the time he had reached the squad car, martyrdom was very much the forefront of his mind.
Cossacks, he cried, as the car door slammed upon him. Wield your rubber truncheons, stick your electrodes at my bottom. I'll never talk. The present-day Pooley refuses to die.
Horvis surveyed the tragic room.
I wonder, said he. And what do you wonder, Sherringford?
The inspector's face broke into a smile.
I wonder how you did that, Professor,
he said, turning to confront that very man who was standing with his back to the now blazing fire.
An extremely complicated transperambulation,
the Magus replied by way of explanation.
I should not wish to repeat it, nor expound upon its intricacies. Frankly, I am somewhat spent.
He looked about at his study.
Oh dear, he said, this is something of a shambles. Allow me to set it to rights.
Horvis held up his hand.
Before you demonstrate the impossible yet again, I shall care for a few words. As you will.
The professor crossed the room, stepping carefully through the debris, swept fallen papers from the chair by his desk, and settled down into it. Horvis scratched his head and wondered where to begin.
Begin at the beginning,
the old man suggested.
Then what happened here? I was subject to a visitation. Evidently. But by whom? By whom? Or by what? You have lost me already.
Professor Slocum dug amongst the chaos of his desktop and unearthed a sherry decanter and 2 glasses.
I am not certain that I was visited by a whom. I spent 20 years in the Patala, Tibet, studying under the Dalai Lama. I can read men's auras, which gives me a certain edge, shall we say. I can often tell what questions they are likely to ask, or what moves they might make, shortly in advance of them doing so. My visitor had no aura, Inspector, none whatsoever. This can mean only one of 2 things. Either that he was dead, of which I consider unlikely, or that he was not human.
The professor poured sherry and handed the baffled detective a slim glass.
Not human, said Horvis. Kindly continue. It was possessed of enormous power, certainly more than a mere man could contain. There was a great rage there, something primordial, atavistic, inhuman, subhuman, proto-human. Call it what you will, but not human. You are telling me that some thing is abroad on the streets of Brentford? It has been for several weeks now. And you have destroyed this thing, whatever it might be. I fear not. Temporarily disabled it, perhaps. I countered its attack with a ceiling of dissociation, of confusion. I preconceived what was about to occur and created a tulpa, or doppelganger of myself, upon which I allowed it to spend its energy before I struck back at it. Then the you in the ambulance is not the you that is here, or is it? I was in Penge during the attack, but I will not add to your confusion. My thanks, said Horvis. But what is this creature? The devil, is it, or some monster from outer space? Come now, Professor. Not outer space. This thing was impossibly strong. It was almost as if it drew its power from the planet itself, from the earth. Is this connected with the business on the island? Almost definitely. And by the by, I never got to see those plaster casts.
Horvis looked shamefaced.
Yet another mess-up, he said. The casts were mysteriously broken. By the time they got around to taking more, rain had washed the original prints away. I see, said the professor, in a tone which suggested that he did. And how goes the great quest? Great quest? The search for gold? Ah, no, said the inspector. I believe the popular expression is that police are expecting to make an early arrest. Bravo. Then you evidently have made significant progress. I believe I know where the loot is stashed. The dawn swoop is imminent. Then the case is all but wrapped up. All but, said Horvis proudly. Good. Then I would appreciate the immediate release of my gardener. Ah, said Horvis, the holiday maker. Yes, Sherringford. Rather unsporting of you, I thought. You may use my telephone if you wish. I would rather not, but I suppose...
Horvis was interrupted by the sudden arrival of two white-faced ambulance men.
Ice gun,
said one.
It's all right,
the inspector replied.
He's here.
Turning toward the professor's desk, he was surprised to discover that the old man was not.
A man of many talents,
said Inspector Horvis.
None of which I fully understand.